This is how I'd like you to approach drafting your street art project number 2, which has a focus on architecture. So for step 1, I want you to create a basic chart that will allow you to organize the details that you want to focus on along the spectrum that your tension creates. So if you scroll down, you'll see I've created a chart that has individualism over here and social conformity over here. There's a spectrum. I've also left space for some mix of the two. So if a detail seems to emphasize individualism, I'm going to put it over here. If a detail seems to emphasize social conformity, I'm going to put it over here. And if I have a detail that's a mix of the two, which is really cool, I'm going to put it in the middle. Now, the example that I have here for you doesn't have a mix of the two, so I didn't put anything in there, but yours might. So it's a good idea to have that element in your table. Now, what you can see is that so far it looks like there's a lot more social conformity in my image than individualism. We're going to talk in a minute about how that plays out in your draft. But first of all, I want to recognize that I've included my pictures in my draft here just because I think it helps you understand what I'm talking about. It's cool if you can include your pictures of your building in your draft because it gives you something to focus on and look at while you write, but they're not required to be there until the final draft. Okay, so once I've done step 1, I've created this table. Now I want to move on and write a claim. And I'm basically going to take what I've done up here and turn it into a sentence that describes the spectrum. So here what I'm going to do is ask myself, do I see this house emphasizing social conformity or individualism? And it's pretty obvious I'm going to go with social conformity, but I also do see some individualism in it. By the way, you don't have to have an artifact that includes both ends of the spectrum. It just so happens that this one does. You could have had an artifact that was all social conformity or all individualism. It doesn't matter. It can be all of one, a mix of the two. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that you're using both terms to create a spectrum that you can place your artifact on. So let's see what I came up with. Well, here it is. This 1989 Temecula suburban home feebly attempts to assert American individualism. So there's my first term, but ultimately surrenders to the power of social conformity. All right, so you can see that I use both terms in there, but I'm arguing that I see more social conformity than individualism, but I do see a little bit of individualism. Now that I have my chart with my details and my claim, I can move on to drafting a paragraph. And the whole idea with the paragraph is to take those details that I listed in my chart and pair them with interpretations. So you'll notice the first thing I do is I repeat my claim, and then I start looking at features. So 3-car garage. And what do I say about that? Well, I say it's not really unique, right? And then I talk about the external design of the house, and I talk about how it matches up basic 5 models on the street. And in particular, this idea of the master bedroom with some columns, a gabled window over the garage. All right. And what I'm saying is that this matches almost exactly 4 of the other houses. So again, it's another marker of conformity. So what you can see is I'm picking out details, the garage, the bedroom over the garage, the gabled windows, and talking about how, so far at least, these are markers of conformity. Then I talk about some other details from the mural, from the artifact, the house that are in my list. And then at the end, I bring in the fact that they've painted their doors and the driveway blue, and how that is an attempt in this community dominated by conformity to show individualism. And I argue that that doesn't prove that individualism prevails, but it does certainly show that at least someone's trying to resist that, even though the community as a whole seems to be pretty symbolic of social conformity. So that's how you can imagine this process. You start off with your pictures and looking at some details. You create a table where you sort out those details to where they fall. You draft a claim. and then you construct a body paragraph, a paragraph that matches details with interpretations. Now, I've run really quickly through this. That's why I'm providing a link to these written instructions as well, so you can study them more carefully. I look forward to seeing what you come up with in your drafts. Feel free to reach out to me with a text or email if you want some help. Thanks.